Welcome back to Hacking D&I, Conversations in Diversity and Inclusion. I'm Elizabeth Lane.
And I'm Denise Hummel.
According to recent research, only 11% of executives can both define their company culture and feel that it's where it needs to be. Culture issues are pervasive. So today we're talking about the 3 signs that your company may have an inclusion culture problem. Denise, talent is a major priority for C-suite executives, and I'm curious what one of those signs might be that has to do with talent.
Well, I mean, with talent in particular, and we're talking about individual, team talent, whenever you see that you have a team member who's underperforming, you have to assume that they were qualified when they came in, right? So you have a qualified talent candidate who's now in an environment and not thriving. To some extent, that could be based on the organizational culture, based on feelings of lack of inclusion, lack of empowerment, and so those are things that have to be explored and discussions that have to be had. Of course, there are a number of other reasons that could impact that as well. But the point is actually opening it up and having the discussion to find out how this perfectly qualified candidate is now not performing to the extent that they could be.
We always hear that culture starts from the top, so I'm expecting that leadership probably has a lot to play into inclusion culture issues.
Very true.
What's the second sign?
I mean, most organizations have very specific cultural values and very specific leadership standards. And the problem is, of course, that leaders don't always walk the talk. Some of them, as you mentioned, don't even know what those values are. And some of them might know, but their behavior just doesn't conform with those values or leadership standards. And it is a trickle-down process, right? So if I'm a senior leader and I behave a certain way or fail to behave a certain way, my team is likely to pick that up and consider that license to behave in the same exact way, or understand that maybe inclusion just isn't a priority.
That seems like it could really impact employee morale. Does that play out in the third sign somewhere?
For sure. I mean, employee engagement and an inclusive culture are directly aligned. The more inclusive a culture is, the higher the employee engagement almost across the board. The statistics are very high in terms of the correlation between the two. And it makes sense, right? Because if you're an employee and you feel included and you feel accepted and you feel empowered, then you are going to feel better about coming to work. You're not just showing up to work to get a paycheck. You're showing up to contribute in an organization that you are personally invested in.
That's great. Thank you. So there you have it. The 3 signs that you may have an inclusion culture problem are: first, your talent might be underperforming. Second, your leadership might not be living the company values. And third, your employees might not be engaged. Check out our webinar on culture and how inclusive behaviors can correct inclusion culture problems.
Thanks, Elizabeth.
Thanks, Denise.